Hi there, this is Annie Pierce, CEO, founder and owner of Seek Easy Online Marketing. First of all, I want to thank you for taking your time and coming and joining me today on this valuable presentation. And I think you're going to find it not only informative, but I'm going to provide you with some very vital information that can make a huge difference in your business starting as soon as today. So, what you're going to be able to do by the end of this training presentation, which I'm going to keep this session to the best of my ability under 30 minutes because I value your time and I know you want to get back to business and making money and doing what you do best. But what you're going to be able to do at the end of this is estimate the value of ranking on page 1 of Google for any competitive keyword. And with that in mind, what I want you to do as we go throughout this presentation is to have at the forefront of your mind the following question. Can you afford not to rank on Google? And what I mean by this is, can your business and its website afford not to rank specifically on page 1 of Google? Now, you're going to find that it can be kind of silly as we go on throughout this, and it's going to become a rhetorical question in the sense that once we go through the content here, it's going to be an obvious answer. But I want you to have it at the forefront of your minds so that you have the state of mind of seeing where I'm leading you to hear throughout the presentation, this very important information and what's going to unfold in the next few minutes here. So with that being said, I'm going to do a very brief introduction. My name is Annie Pierce. I'm CEO, founder, and owner of Seek Easy Online Marketing, and we are a premier SEO services provider and internet marketing consultant agency that serves professional clients throughout the United States. So professional clients would be businesses and practices such as law firms, physicians, dentists, oral surgeons, realtors, insurance agents, and the like. So we help professional services and organizations get top rankings with their website and other digital assets and properties. Now, our company utilizes a proven ranking system for ranking keywords on page 1 of Google, and that's page 1, number 1, including at this very moment ranking over 20,000 top keywords in number 1 in Google on more than 1,000 websites across the United States. These keywords receive several 100,000 monthly searches that produce up to thousands of phone calls daily. And a percentage of those phone calls convert to sales and increased revenues and profits. Now, if you're interested in having your phone ring more and being able to convert those phone calls and emails to sales and increase revenues and profits, let me tell you, if that sounds appealing to you, you're in the right place at the right time. So what I want you to do right now is to be sure to tune out and shut off all distractions, including your mobile devices, social media, and the like. Close the door if you need to in your office if it's noisy or wherever you may be. It would also be helpful if you have a pen and paper handy, or if you prefer a notepad open on your computer so you can take some good notes. And get ready to see why your business needs to rank on page 1 of Google and really cannot afford not to. What I have here first is to show you that search engine optimization, SEO, has the biggest impact on lead generation. It shows here business to business, but it's also business to consumer. And I'm going to show you first of all that 57% indicate that SEO, search engine optimization, has the biggest impact for leads. Second place is PPC, or pay-per-click, such as AdWords, and that's coming in at a substantially lower second place at 25%. And then rounding out these three items is social media at 18%. So you can see that SEO is predominant and makes the biggest impact for online lead generation. It's also true for B2C, or business to consumer. We're talking 41% SEO versus PPC, again pay-per-click such as AdWords, at 34%, and social media rounding out these three items at 25%. Now, to give you an idea, the size and scope of daily searches, and this is just Google. There's also Bing, Yahoo, and some other search engine services. But just Google alone, over 5.5 billion search queries were done in 2015, and that number and figure is higher in 2016, and approaching, if not, has already surpassed 6 billion daily searches. And as you can see, just exponentially has been growing over the past 12 years from 2003 to 2015, as this chart indicates. Now, in terms of what happens on page 1 of search results, when somebody does a search in Google, for example, they land on search results 1 through 10 organically. And out of the 1 through 10 results, 91.5% are going to click on any one of those page 1. Of course, when you have a search, you can have multiple pages that come back, depending on the search. Could be having anywhere from 1 page up to 100 pages or more. So the point of the matter is, regardless of the number of pages, most searchers do not get past page 1. So that's a big takeaway here. Now that leaves if 91.5% are clicking on page 1 search results, only 8.5% of clicks are happening on page 2 and beyond. So if you look at this chart here, you want to be at page 1 ranking because 91.5% of the time the searcher is going to pick one of those rankings 1 through 10. Now, if you're on page 2 or beyond, you have a very small percentage. Page 2 is at 4.8% of the time. The clicks are going to happen from ranking 11 to 20. And then beyond that, they do a search query versus going beyond. If they can't find it on the first page, they're very likely they're not going to make it to the second page or after that. Now, we talk in terms of first page clicks. You want to be number 1, obviously, is the ultimate goal, but you want to be at least in the top 5 results, and I argue even in the top 3 results. The higher the better, of course, because as you can see here at 91.5% first page clicks, 75.7% of those clicks are happening on page 1 ranking positions, number 1, number 2, and number 3. So if you're ranking page 1, number 1 for a particular keyword, 32.5% of the time on average, the searcher is going to click on that top number 1 result. And then number 2 result is going to be at 17.6%. Number 3 is 11.4%, and it goes so on and so forth. But you can see here why you would want to be ranking higher to get more potential clicks to your website. The initial takeaway from this point is that SEO is the key driver of online lead generation. Ranking on page 1 of Google is imperative, and your SEO ranking goal is top 3 results. The higher the better because you get more clicks, and the more clicks you get an opportunity to convert into revenue and sales. But why do you need to rank on page 1 of Google, and much preferably in the top 3 results? Because when you rank on page 1 of Google, you can generate more online traffic, more visitors to your website, more leads and more qualified leads, more sales, more revenues, and ultimately more online profits. The higher your page 1 ranking, the bigger your potential is to dominate your market and crush your competition. But what if you're not ranking on page 1 of Google? Who is? Well, if it's not you, it's your competition, which means that they and not you are in prime position to generate more online traffic, more website visitors, more leads, qualified leads, sales, revenues, and profits, which I don't think you want that to happen. You want to have the opportunity, not your competition, to get more of all of those. Now, why is all of this so important? Why do you need to rank on page 1 of Google? Because there's actually a cost of not ranking on page 1 of Google, a cost that can actually be calculated. Now, there's a very good chance that you didn't even know that there's a way to calculate the estimated value of any keyword in any position on page 1 of Google, and that's okay. It doesn't surprise me. But why don't you know? I mean, wouldn't you want to know if you're investing or considering investing in SEO? Unfortunately, and rather sad, most so-called SEO experts have no idea how to calculate the value of any keyword on page 1 of Google, and worse yet, they have no clue how to calculate the estimated value of a keyword. Now, how many of the so-called SEO professionals or experts you have either retained or are currently retaining have talked to, received emails or marketing materials from, or heard a sales pitch from, have actually calculated the estimated value of the keywords that they're attempting to intended to rank on page 1 of Google for you? How many have even mentioned the potential value of any one of those keywords? Most likely, very, very few, if any of at all, have discussed this with you. Now, that's pretty scary. Don't you think that it would be vitally important to know the potential value of a keyword you're trying to rank on page 1 of Google before trying to rank it or pay anyone to rank it for you? Of course you would. That being the case, then why do a vast majority of SEO consultants never calculate for you the estimated value of ranking any of your keywords on page 1 of Google, or even mention it to you at all? So the simple, painful truth is this. A vast majority of SEO consultants have absolutely no clue how to calculate a keyword's value, and worse yet, these same SEO consultants very likely have absolutely no clue how to find the right resources to run or have someone run your keyword valuation for you. So the next time you talk to your current SEO consultant and or any other consultant trying to sell you their SEO services, ask them what the potential value is for one or more of your keywords if it's ranked on page 1 of Google anywhere from number 1 to number 10. What do you think their response would be? After a few ums and clearing their throat, you already know before they say anything at all that they do not know how to calculate the estimated keyword value, or worse, they have no idea what you're even talking about. And let's even assume they did know, which is highly unlikely. Why did you have to bring up this key question in the first place? Don't you think that any SEO consultant worth their weight should already know how to do this and has already done this for you so they can tell you the potential value of any of your keywords? This puts you in prime position to make an informed decision whether it seems worthwhile to have SEO work performed on any specific keyword, and if you're choosing between keywords, which one's the best and what results you may estimate, assuming all of your assumptions are accurate, of course. Now, there's a red flag warning. At this point, you should be seeing red flags, as in red flags, but why? Because if an SEO consultant can't tell you the estimated value of any keywords that they're ranking, trying to rank, or want to rank for you, how can they even recommend to you which keywords to rank for you in the first place? Sure, there will be some obvious keywords, but even so, how can an SEO consultant even begin to understand how to price their services if they don't even have a clue what your potential revenues might be if they get you ranked on page 1 of Google for your keywords? How could you determine your potential return on investment, or ROI, without this vital information? You can't. It's akin to flying blind, but it does not need to be that way. I have great news for you. I have a software tool to estimate the value of ranking of any competitive keyword on page 1 of Google, and can run this calculation for virtually any scenario based on certain assumptions, including your own metrics if available, for the most accurate estimate. Estimating the value of ranking on page 1 of Google, I'm going to show you a step-by-step calculation estimating the value of ranking on page 1 of Google. So right now, we're going to do some quick but very important calculations that you've probably never seen before but wished you had, to see how much in potential lost revenue you may have if your competitors are ranking on page 1 of Google and you're not. As an example, let's say you or your competitors in this case have one keyword with a monthly search volume of 1,000 unique visitors per month. Now let's assume the following estimated monthly click distribution. If we have a click rate of 10% out of those 1,000 clicks, what would the monthly be if they're ranking number 1 on page 1, which is 32.5% on average. So out of those 1,000 clicks, page 1, ranking number 1, would get about 325 estimated clicks monthly. For the number 2 position, it would be at about 176 clicks, and number 3 would be at about 114 clicks. I'm not going to read them all, but you get the idea. The higher you rank, the more estimated clicks you're going to get monthly. Of course, we can analyze that too by multiplying the monthly estimated clicks by 12, which is here for you. So if you're ranking on page 1, number 1, you can see here that for ranking page 1, number 1, you will get an estimated 3,900 annualized clicks. Number 2 drops down exponentially down to 2,112, and all the way down to number 10. You can see how much they drop as you rank farther down. Now let's take it a step farther. We now know our estimated clicks you're going to have on those 1,000 clicks depending on your ranking on page 1. Now let's determine the clicks of qualified leads, which are the people who have ended up on your website or your online property. And now what we want to do is convert leads to qualified leads, which means they either picked up the phone and called you, or they opted in for email, something like that. We're going to assume a 20% lead conversion assumption scenario here. So if that's the case, if you're ranking number 1 on page 1 monthly, you're going to be able to generate approximately 65 qualified leads by simply multiplying 325 estimated clicks by 20%. It's going to give you 65 qualified leads. You and I both have to agree that's a lot of leads to have available to you just on a monthly basis. And if you're number 2, it drops off, but still nice to a number of 35 leads. And then number 3 gets about 23 leads, and so on. Once again, it's multiplying by 12. Now looking annually, number 1, page 1 ranking, you're going to get an estimated 780 qualified leads throughout the year. At number 2, it's 422. If you're ranked at number 3, you're at 274, and so on and so forth. Those are a lot of leads. So if you're not ranking in the top 3, you're leaving a lot of potential revenue and income on the table if you're not generating those qualified leads, and your competitors are. Now, let's assume that a mere 10% of qualified leads retain one of your competitors for their goods and services versus yours. So in other words, 10% of qualified leads are converted to a sale. All we need to do now is take the qualified leads we just figured out monthly to come up with potential monthly sales generated. So all we need to do is take our qualified leads. If we're page one, number one, which was 65, and if you multiply that by 10%, we'll have about 6.5 sales per month. If you're number two position, it would be 3.5 qualified leads. Number two would bring you 2.3 and so on. If you analyze that, we're going to come back and multiply those figures by 12. You can see here qualified leads in a year. If you're number one on page one by our estimated example, you'd get 78 sales. Ranking number two would be 42, number three would be 27 sales, and so on. The point here is showing you the sales distribution. You want to rank higher for more opportunities to convert those qualified leads to sales. And you should know these type of metrics with your website. You might convert leads to 20%, and then you'd be double these figures. Maybe you only convert half, so you need to half them. But whatever the case may be, this gives you a starting point for you to start to understand the value of ranking in different positions on page one. The next thing we need to do is we need to assume a lifetime client value. So let's assume that you're a personal injury lawyer and that each new client or case is worth $50,000 for your competitor. And maybe your lifetime client value is higher or lower per client. Perhaps you're a physician and that would be a different figure, obviously, but whatever the figure is, you can plug it in. But for our example, to make it sweet and simple, we're going to use $50,000 for on average each new client. All we need to do now is to come up with potential monthly revenues generated is take that qualified lead to sale monthly that we did a few moments ago, 6.5 sales per month, and multiply it by our average lifetime client value of $50,000 each. And that's going to give potential monthly revenue of $325,000 for ranking page one, number one. If you're ranking number two, page one, you would take those 3.5 qualified lead sales and multiply it by the average lifetime client value of $50,000, and that's $175,000 of potential monthly revenue by ranking number two. And number three is 2.3 sales, and that's about $115,000 potentially monthly revenue that we estimate using this scenario. Even if you're number 9 or number 10, that's an estimated $25,000 in additional revenue per month that's possible using this scenario. And I think you'd agree those are not numbers to sneeze at. Now, let's take the next step to annualize these revenues and get an estimate on an annualized basis, and it's pretty mind-blowing. If you're page one, number one for these keywords, just that 10% qualified lead to sale, that's 78 sales. Multiply that out again by our average lifetime client value at $50,000 each, and that's $3.9 million. That's a huge number. Ranking number two, page one, with 42 qualified lead to sale, then you multiply again by $50,000, and that's $2.1 million. Number three position is 27 sales, and that's $1.35 million. Even number four almost has $1 million in sales. And even looking down to 9 and 10, even with $300,000 each. So these are some big numbers, which you can see if you're ranking on page one of Google or other search engines. The point of the matter is the higher you rank, the more potential in your revenue, and you can see generated by your ranking. Now, this is an estimate of what's possible, and of course, to be fair, I must tell you that the preceding examples were only estimates, potential sales and revenues numbers that are for informational purposes only, and even though they were only hypothetical figures, they're actually something much more than that. They reveal what is so very possible in terms of new sales and revenues generated online for you if and when you're ranking on the first page of Google. In our example, ranking on page one as number one spot of Google has the potential annual revenue value of $3.9 million, and that's huge. And even the losers are winners here in that example. Even if you're ranking last or 10th on page one of Google, you have the potential annual revenue value of $300,000, depending on where your business is, and that can be a huge number as well. It's a nice figure to add to your bottom line annually. And that was only 10 keywords with some pretty easy assumptions. Just imagine what the potential value is for all of your keywords. Now, let me take this thought process one step further. What if you had multiple page one rankings like this example? It's a little hard to see, but in this particular search query, 6 out of the top 8 page one Google rankings for one of the most competitive keywords were for one business in a major U.S. city. That is dominating depending on the client value and the conversion figures. That can be huge. But what it really represents is total market domination. It's totally dominating the keywords and search results, but also crushing and dominating your competition. So I must ask you again, can you afford not to rank on the first page of Google? Now, the preceding calculations were based on certain assumptions and only an example of what is possible and not a guarantee of any kind. However, the important takeaway for you is to understand that if you're not ranking on Google, you're not banking, and that you and your business are potentially losing out on substantial revenues just waiting for you to grab. After all, someone will be generating the online traffic, clicks, leads, phone calls, emails, sales, and revenues from ranking on page 1 of Google for your keywords. Make that someone you and your business, not your competition. Make that someone you as soon as possible. Otherwise, your competitors will have the upper hand and your business will suffer. And with the type of potential lost revenues you see are possible when you don't rank on page 1 of Google, I have to ask you, can you really afford not to rank on page 1 of Google? You and I, we both know the answer to that question, don't we? At this standpoint, it's a rhetorical question. So what should you do next? You now have two choices, a fork in the road. You can do nothing and leave the fate of your business to chance. Or you can schedule your free no obligation keyword valuation and analysis with me now by picking a day and time for us to speak at the end of this presentation. Next, we need to find out the estimated value of your keywords if you were ranking on page 1 of Google instead of your competitors. Plus, I will provide you with a game plan for your keywords to show up on page 1 of Google. I'm looking for a few more qualified clients, and the type of clients that I work with are businesses who want to generate more online traffic, leads, qualified leads, phone calls, emails, sales, and revenues, businesses who are ready to invest now, and lastly, businesses who do not penny pinch or delay key decisions, because this could lead to the difference in getting ranked on page 1 of Google or not, which could be substantial. So what you need to do right now is you need to pick a day and time for us to speak as soon as possible, as I work on an exclusive basis and my time and client roster space are very limited, and once my roster fills up, it can be up to several months before another slot becomes available. I'm available to speak to you 7 days a week, so go ahead and schedule your free no obligation keyword valuation and analysis now before your competitors do. If you want to beat out your competitors to the punch, or if you prefer to get started immediately and beat out your competition, you can call me at 863-657-3149 or email me at annie@seekeasyseoservices.com. Thank you for taking your valuable time out of your day to watch this important and informative presentation. I look forward to speaking with you very soon. And if you're ready to speak to me about your keyword valuation analysis and game plan, again, my information for contacting me is, my phone number is 863-657-3149, and my email is annie@seekeasyseoservices.com. So thank you, and I look forward to speaking with you very soon.